I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 to the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, find a rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side.
Hey, we are back. We're back. Hey, did Carl say start the show already? What is with that? Well, come on, Carl. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Everyone's eager to get back, get the show on the road. Lads, how are you? Pete, we'll start with you. I haven't seen you for a while. I'm Daz. Pete, how are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I feel rested. It's been a nice international break. I'm not gonna lie.
Nice.
Away from football, recharged, and yeah, ready for a busy month or so ahead. But yeah, all good.
Cool. Crystal, rocking the beard. I like it.
I know. Do you know what? I need to have a shave, but no, I'm just going with it at the minute. But no, I'm very good, mate. Very good. It does feel like a long time since we've done a show, doesn't it? So I'm like Pete, feel refreshed. Really pleased to be back. Very excited to have Cal and Eddie on. And yeah, looking forward to the show and talking a bit of club football, because as you all know, I'm not that into me internationals. So this little period of the time off has been nice, but I'm ready now to come back, and I'm ready to get some wins as well. So
nice one, Chris. And Richie, I'm glad you didn't come with a hat, because I felt like the odd man out there for a while. But how are you, Richie?
Been better, but as the lad has said, it's fully loaded for the first time in a while. It's good to get back to talking about domestic Premier League action and the club we all love, and also, the second part of our new worldwide series with some other fantastic guests from fan bases all around the world as well. So it's a good one to get this week started, which is going to be a big September and October for not just Newcastle but us loaded lads as well, with what's planned for this month as well.
As always, Richie. Well, and yeah, you touched on it there. Tonight we're with the San Diego Mags, and we've got two of the lads. We've got Shade and we've got Eddie to bring out now in just 1 second. But if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new, hit that subscribe button as well. But what is the Worldwide Show about? We had the one with the Irish Mags last week. We just got the lads on. We got the people on to talk about their group, what they do, what they've got coming up, and then how others can get in contact with them as well, and build their groups. So it's a great way to meet new supporters all over the world. So without further ado, let's get the boys on. Let's bring on, here's Eddie. Welcome, Eddie.
Hey.
And here's Shade. Welcome, boys.
Hey, gents, how are you doing today?
Evening, lads.
All good.
All good.
So let's get into it, lads. So first question for you guys: tell us all about the San Diego Mags, and I've got a few photos to show along the way. So who would like to take up that description for us?
I'll let Shade go after that one.
Yeah, all right. I'll kick it off. I guess it all starts with San Diego Mags have been around in San Diego for some time now. Our really, really good friend Simon, he founded the group years ago, before I lived in San Diego and knew who Eddie was or anything like that. So we do have to give a big kudos to Simon for really being the godfather or grandfather of everything that is the San Diego Mags now. Yeah, there we are. And yeah, I moved to San Diego about 3 years ago. I met a couple of Geordies because I always look for Geordies in the areas that I move to because I know I'm immediately going to have friends if I do. And I met my buddy Graham, and we started kind of watching the matches together. There wasn't a lot of people hanging out at that time, and there wasn't a lot of action from the group during that time. I think that a lot of U.S. groups kind of suffered some of kind of what St. James suffered when we were under Mike Ashley with not being able to fill the stadium kind of towards the end. And you had a lot of people that it's like, well, why am I going to get up at 4:30 and go to a pub and watch us lose? Or watch Bruce ball when, I could just stay at home. And that's not what I'm about. Like, I wanted a group. I love watching it with fellow supporters and stuff like that. And so we started going to a couple different bars. We found the Bluefoot. The guy who manages the Bluefoot, his name's Rodney. Unfortunately, he's a Spurs supporter, but he's also a really good lad and a really good football lad. And he told us, hey, if you can get 5 or 6 people here, I'll have a TV with the match on, which was more than we were getting at most of the other bars. And he's like, and I'll always make sure that you guys have somewhere to watch the game. And we're like, all right, cool. And so that happened. I started kind of just plugging that on social media as much as I could. And then in the other end of San Diego was my good friend Eddie over here, who eventually joined us, but I'll let him kind of talk a bit about how he came to be with the Toon Army San Diego before we kind of talk about what it looks like now.
Cool.
Yeah,
Tell us more, Eddie.
I go way back as a Toon supporter, but I was always on the periphery because, well, there wasn't very many of us, and I'd run into the odd supporter here and there in San Diego. And when I moved back from Hawaii, because I lived in Hawaii for a while, I kind of caught up to San Diego Mags. We would kind of pop around different pubs to watch a match here and there. But over the last couple of years here, last few years here, it's really taken off to what we're doing right now, and it's been amazing. This ride, this journey from where we were during the Ashley years that we all survived that to where we're headed right now. With the San Diego Mags and the things that we're doing now, it's amazing. It feels like we're right along with the club, right along with the supporters worldwide, and it's been fantastic. It's been a fantastic ride, and I have so many high hopes for this season. So it's been really exciting.
Nice one. Guys, another question just about the group. Have you any future plans? I know you're meeting for the Brentford game at the weekend, but any further plans going forward for the group?
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a few things in the works. We meet for every match. It's going to be a little tricky with Champions League. West Coast United States, we have the worst. We have one of the worst time zones. We have fellow supporters in Australia that have it pretty bad as well. But we do have, it's pretty rough, especially with being a midweek and a lot of people having work. So we're trying to figure out how we can take advantage of the Champions League fixtures in the best way possible. Like, our pub will be open. I'll definitely be there. I know Eddie will be there, some of the other fans, but outside of that, we meet for every match. We're also very active in the San Diego football community. Eddie and I are the season ticket holders for the Loyal in San Diego, and a lot of the other kind of members and figureheads of the other supporters groups all support that club as well. So we try to, we kind of have the saying, it's like, everybody in the Premier League supporters group throughout San Diego is a good guy, unless we're playing you on a Sunday or a Saturday, right? And so we all work together to try and keep that community as engaged and as supportive as possible. And so we do collaboration events with them to just build more, really build more business for the Bluefoot, because we are grateful for them to be our host. They do a lot of fundraising events. Outside of that, every year I host the I put it together, but we do it under the San Diego Mags. As we do the Bobby Robson 5K and 10K run, where we raise charity. We raise money for the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation, and so we started doing that 2 years ago, just to kind of support. Everybody that kind of knows my story knows my mom passed away of cancer. I know a lot of fans that did the same. Unfortunately, Sir Bobby did as well, and so it's a foundation that means a lot to me. But last year we raised over $3,000 for it. We're aiming to double that. We're able to double it. We're aiming to double that this year. So we do stuff like that where we try and be able to give back to not only our San Diego community, but the community in Newcastle as well. So we have stuff like that planned. We also are working on kind of doing more stuff across the country with a lot of the other U.S. supporters groups. This is the most the club's ever been involved with the U.S. fan base, and we're really, really grateful for that. I mean, it wasn't just the summer series. They've been very communicative with all of us, and that kind of gives us ideas for how we want to further build out the San Diego Mags, support the club, but also maybe become even more organized and a little more established as the club continues to grow and do the same.
And I'll tell you with the partnership that we have with the Bluefoot and all the way Rodney and the Bluefoot support all the EPL clubs, it's just growing the brand for the EPL. And as far as San Diego Mags are concerned, we are at the forefront of a lot of those great activities that we're trying to put together. And as Shade stated, with the Sir Bobby run, with trying to push our brand a little bit more, if you will, as the San Diego Mags. We're getting a real good following, and that was very evident when we went to the summer series. That was a lot of fun for a lot of reasons, obviously, but it was fantastic to know that the West Coast is being recognized, and a lot of the other supporters groups are trying to emulate what we're doing, and it's been a fantastic part of this journey thus far.
Yeah, and also with Eddie's a little more humble than me, but also like if you were at Summer Series and you went home with a sticker or you compliment us on our shirt, Eddie's the guy that takes care of all of that. He makes sure that everybody, he was basically, our stickers are our business cards, right? He was making sure everybody at Summer Series, anyone that supports Newcastle, anywhere he goes has one of those stickers. So, he's kind of like, he works in our marketing department, I guess, and merchandising, if we had those things. But yeah, and that's just really, really good at building the brand out too, and raising more awareness on the West Coast.
I'd like to say I'm the Pied Piper, if you will. Just we're going to try to pull in as many supporters as we can. Any new supporters, we're welcoming new supporters, obviously, because we want what Newcastle United does as a club and as the brand that they are to take off and to really start to continue to grow here with us.
Yeah, Eddie, I think you could be someone we could try and poach from the San Diego Mags to join Loaded, especially with that Joe Linton shirt. Look, that's class. You're going to get recognized as that. Pete, I think you want to come in.
Absolutely, love it.
People have already said in the chat about your guys' t-shirts there and shirts. They are looking the part. There's no doubt about it. But I just wanted to ask you boys. Obviously, you talked about the different groups that are kind of incorporated in the San Diego Mags. What does, with being I think it's about 8 hours behind, is that right? In terms of
depending on the time of the year, 7 or 8. Yeah.
So what does a match day look like for you? Like in terms of in comparison to us, because I imagine they're very different. The weather's very different for one. So how is a match day for you? Is there any rituals? Is there any things that you do in terms of building up to match day? And how does it kind of look from a San Diego match point of view?
I'm going to drop this in here really quick because it's one of my favorite rituals, and obviously, and Shade will add on, but one of my favorite rituals is Pippin Man City to hang up our flags.
I was hoping you'd say that. I was hoping you'd say that. I was about to say that, yeah, our first ritual is, Eddie makes sure that the flag's always hung up at Bluefoot because he gets there before most of us. And Man City, we share that bar with Man City, Villa, Arsenal, and a few other, Chelsea. Well, not
Wolves.
So much, but Wolves. Yeah, they're actually a great group. But yeah, so we share with quite a few people, and certain days, there's only so many hooks for the flags, and whether you agree or disagree, Man City feels very entitled to the best spot for their flags, considering that they're the treble winners. And Eddie loves to make sure they have to ask him to move one of our 4 flags down in order to accommodate that, which we happily do. It's a respect thing. They've been there longer than us. We're not trying to shit where we eat, but
absolutely,
we do like to remind them that they're going to have to change the name to the Black and White Foot sooner or later.
It must be a nice dynamic. So when we're playing one of those clubs that share the bar with you. It's like a ground share. Pub share.
Love
It is. It's good. Man. You know, like, it's not at this point. I mean, we're the largest we've ever been, right? We're getting 15 to 20 to 30 people a match day, which is astounding, and I'm beyond grateful for that. And we know it's going to grow as we continue to grow. And as Eddie said, you know, I don't care when you discovered Newcastle or when Newcastle called to you, right? Like, if you support this club, you're welcome at the Bluefoot, and you know, one of us will buy you a pint. Your first pint's on us, and then we go from there. But you know, so we do have to share. We do have to share the bar. And a lot of clubs struggle with wanting their own bar, and then they have to move a lot if they're not producing enough business. And we're not realistically there yet. But it does create like a great match day environment, especially, you know, like when we play, you know, if we're playing Wolves have great banter, and then we're both at the same bar. And so we're giving each other a bit of stick the whole time, and everybody's chanting back and forth. You know, Man City are there. They'll be on the other side of the bar. They'll have double our numbers, but you wouldn't know it because they're dead quiet.
Absolutely.
And we like to remind them that. And then, you know, and everybody kind of, you know, it's good banter. Everybody gets along for the most part. There's no Mackems there. And Liverpool stays away as well. So they've got their own bar somewhere else. So, you know, it's all good groups. But I think the best experience for the fact that we all share is the last match day of the season, because every match is on at the same time, right? So the bar is rammed with all the supporters groups, and everybody's just in a good mood or a bad mood or praying they don't get relegated, and everybody's giving each other banter, and it's just so fun, right, Eddie? Like, that's
absolutely
the season, yeah.
That is so much.
Yeah,
that is such a great time, and just before I forget, two things I've never seen. I've never seen a Mackem in Milan, and I've certainly never seen a Mackem in San Diego. That's a fact.
Love it, Eddie.
Drop
Love
mic.
it.
They definitely don't go to Bluefoot if they're here.
I just wanted to know, lads, only because it's like, I think it's absolutely fantastic what you do, and you know, having like a focal point for you all to meet up is brilliant. And you know, I kind of wish that we did something like that similar. I mean, I'm in Liverpool, and you could probably count, well, on one hand, how many are within close proximity of me. But what I wanted to ask was, you know, this Bluefoot bar, like how close is it to, you know, you said there was about 20, 30 of you. How close is it in proximity for all of you? And like, who makes the longest journey? And do one of you live around the corner, or are people traveling far and wide to come to this bar? And not just yourselves, but also like your Wolves, your Man City fans. It just sounds like a little community, but it sounds great. But I just wondered, like, how close is everybody, or do some people really, you know, travel far distances to make sure that they come to the pub?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, Eddie, you live a lot further away from Bluefoot than me, so maybe you should start it. I think I know who drives the furthest.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I know who drives the furthest, but I'm about 20 minutes, and the great thing about San Diego, North Park, which is where the Bluefoot's situated, is just outside of downtown. So it's Center City. It's really cool. As far as commutes, I know there's a bunch of supporters that live within walking distance. Shade being one, and Rich being one, but Richard Hawkins being another. But I drive about 20 minutes. We've got a couple of lads that drive about an hour and change to come from what's called the Inland Empire, which is more of in a different county, believe it or not. It's in a completely different county. So we've got supporters coming from all over the place, and that's the same for the other clubs, and that's a testament to what Rodney has put together there at the Bluefoot, because it has become the mecca for watching the EPL in San Diego County. That's for sure.
100%. And, you know, just going off of that, like, give a shout out to our fellow San Diego Mag, Bryant. I think he drives the furthest regularly. He lives in Temecula, which I don't expect you to know where that is. It's really far from here. And, so, you know, probably about an hour's drive.
Absolutely.
And he's shown up for 6:30 games before. And so that's definitely a trek for him where, like I'm a 15-minute walk. I used to be the closest. I moved recently. So I was 5 minutes before. Now I'm a 15-minute walk. And then a couple of our other mates live probably within about 10 minutes walk as well. And then, like Eddie said, North Park's very, very central to all of San Diego County. So it kind of works that we happen to be at that bar, because we used to be at a different bar in Ocean Beach, and you just couldn't get the numbers there. It wasn't, I'm not going to, talk poorly about it. They were home to us for a long time before I came aboard, but it just wasn't, it wasn't the easiest access. It wasn't the best bar. They didn't have a Rodney, you know, and
There's only one.
Yeah, you know, and it really just kind of made the perfect mixture of why the Bluefoot works. And the community is so loyal to Bluefoot that they even open up another bar in North Park, a sports bar that opens up early, serves food, lets you know, they'll show all the matches and stuff like that. And I think only one supporters group decided to go there. The rest of us were like, no, like if you don't have Rodney, you don't have the match day experience. So we stay loyal to Rodney. If he wants to go to another bar, then we can kind of talk about it then. But because Bluefoot originally didn't start as it's not a football bar. It's very weird. If you go in there in the evening, it's a little dive bar, and like it doesn't even feel like a place I belong in. Like it's not home, right? Where it's funny because I live there, you know, at least one day a week, and then in the morning it's like a proper football bar, and it's just really, really strange. But that's credit to Rodney. I mean, he said he wanted to open up early for these matches. They will even open up at 4:30 for us if we want to do the 4:30 kickoff. They can't serve us until 6 a.m., but they will open it. They'll have it on the telly if we want it. And yeah, and that's just, again, like he doesn't have to do that. He's not going to make any money for that first match. We just try and tell people like, hey, if you're not drinking, like drop him a tenner, make it worth his while as well.
Just to check, Cal. Maybe this is me being cynical. I don't know, but do you not get your bevies, or is that the you know the corrective line you've got to say?
This is recorded, Chris.
From 4:30 to 6 a.m., there is no serving at Bluefoot whatsoever. You can get a beer at 6 a.m.
Sorry, Rodney.
wink.
Sorry, I'm not
Say
trying
no
to
more.
cash it up, mate. Sorry, Rodney.
Right, lads. Let's move to the next
Thanks
section.
for watching, Rodney.
The Bluefoot, the former home of the San Diego Knights.
Hey, can I do a quick shout out?
Of course you can, Eddie.
Rodney put on a phenomenal event at the end of last year, which was called Footstock, kind of like a Woodstock, but it was Footstock, and that pub was packed to the gills with every possible supporter from the Giants of the game to the minnows of the game. It was fantastic, and Rodney put on a great show. So if you all could ever come out to join us for that would be a magical day. You could do the show from there, and it would be an amazing event. So big shout out to Rodney and his success with Footstock.
Well
Yeah.
done.
Oh, he'd love that actually. Yeah.
Right, lads, I've got like about 15 pictures. Normally people would have met one person from associated with the club, but I've got a lot of pictures here. So I'm going to fly through the pictures and stop me on any one if you have a story. There's too many pictures to talk about everyone. So let's pick. I'll fly through them and take it from there. So first up is you, Shade, with Amanda.
Yeah. I mean, that was unreal. It was at the Premier League Summer Series. They did an open training in Atlanta. And they announced that open training very late. We had already put all our travel plans together. We were meant to be staying we were meant to stay in Philly an extra day. We completely changed everything once we got invited to that. And I'm so glad that we did it. We drove 16 hours to get there. And my goal was I was like, if we can meet people, that'd be amazing. Like I want to meet Trippier more than anything, just because, you know, I just see him as kind of that, you know, that player that started it all, right? And then I didn't know if Amanda was going to be there, and she just happened to be there, and she was dead lovely. She had time for everybody. It was unreal. Yeah, there's me with Trips, and you know, I went up to him and I handed him my shirt, and I was like, "Can you sign it?" And he's like, "Number 15." He looked at me like I was crazy, and I'm like, "I bought this in Newcastle the day you signed with us. I was there for your debut. I was like, I watched us get eliminated. Like, I was like, this shirt means so much to me. I need you to sign it." He's like, he started laughing. He was dead nice and everything like that. And that was one of my favorite moments was meeting him and just, you know, shaking his hand. Shay Given was at all of the fan events. So it was funny. Like Eddie and I, we felt like we became traveling buddies with Shay and Shola. Yeah, we were in Philly, Atlanta, New Jersey, and New York, Shay and Shola. Yeah, there's Eddie. Go ahead, Eddie.
I had just told Shay about the first time I had met him, which was I can't remember who mentioned it earlier on travels to the US where the dollar would go, the pound would go so far here. But back in 2006 when I got married, we went there on our honeymoon and the dollar was not doing so well. But anyway, just long story short with that piece is I thought I had 10K to have a great time, and it ended up being about 3K, and it was still a good time. But anyway, I reminded Shay about that story about when I met him. I was with my wife, and we were in the car park, and I saw a Jag, and it said Shay 1 on the license plate. I'm like, no way that could be Shay Given's car. And who pops out of that car? It's Shay Given. And I spent about 5 minutes, like a 12-year-old little girl, trying to get the nerve to walk up to the man and say hello. And my wife at the time just kind of pushed me in his direction. And we had a great chat. And I reminded him about that. Of course, he didn't remember, but it was still fun to talk about that with him. It was pretty cool.
Cool. Keeping with the keepers, let's go to Steve Harper, and of course our thoughts go out to Steve Harper. Yeah. We said it last week, and I hope he's making full recovery at the moment. But you got to meet him as well, Shade.
Yeah, we didn't know about that one. That was in New York, so that was the last fan event of the series, and we knew Shay and Shola were going to be there, and each event was very different. And then Steve Harper just casually walks in and he's just kind of stood in the back. And I'm like, he had a double take because it wasn't announced. No one in any of the groups knew he was going to be there. I mean, I'm sure Newcastle United knew, right? But they didn't mention it to anybody. And I'm like, pretty sure that's Steve Harper. And then I was like, God, it is. And then went up to him and just introduced myself. And then that was, and I'll let Eddie jump in as well. But I personally think that New York event was the best one. For two reasons. First off, Peter Dillon's is the best bar in all of America. It's the only Newcastle bar I've ever seen in America. It's the dream that we would love to see the Bluefoot decked out the way that Peter Dillon's is, because it's a proper just Geordie bar. But the cool thing from the event was kind of Shay and Steve talking about being in the club together, right, and everything like that. Go ahead, Eddie. But that was. And for me, I thought that was just a cool interaction to be, to witness and stuff like that.
The banter between Shay and Steve Harper was epic, and it was in public where we could all hear the give and take of how they kind of gave each other a little stick, the competition for the places, and it was just fun to watch because it's like they're sitting at a little table amongst themselves, just having a chat and having a laugh, but they were having that laugh in front of all of us, and it was amazing. And then watching Shola in the middle of that, just with the look on his face of, I had never heard any of these stories, and just having a great laugh. And Peter Dillon's, I'll tell you, just like Shay said, that place was amazing, absolutely amazing, in dead center of the city, and you can't miss that Newcastle bar at all. It was fantastic, so much fun.
Daz, can you stick that Steve Harper picture back up?
Sure.
Is that your shirt there, Cal, in the top corner?
I thought that myself.
15.
No, I'll see my shirt to them after Tripp signed it. But I didn't even notice that. That's hilarious. But they've got, it's crazy. They had flags all over that bar, jerseys. They just all of the highlights from the glory days on repeat on all the TVs. It's just, Toon Army New York, they've got the ideal home, and they're all a bunch of great people too. It was, you all know, because, all of us know, just Newcastle supporters, Geordies in general, are welcoming and humble and nice and all that. And it's some of the things I love most about the people of Newcastle. But it was the same vibe, when you walk into a bar in New York where, everybody has their own opinions about New York, and you hear it's like a gritty, not so friendly city. And most cities in America can be like that and stuff like that. And it was just really surreal. We had known about it, but we'd never been. And then walking into it, and it was just like walking into Geordie land. It was, and everybody there was just super welcoming. And Toon Army New York was just full of great people. And it was really cool. And the Harper showing up was great. And I'm very, very happy to hear that he's doing all right. I hope that recovery as well, I hope he has a speedy recovery.
I'm going to jump to this one next, and then I'm going to go to the topical story on this guy. But Tonali.
That was so it's funny, right? I was, and I'm not anybody that thinks that FIFA translates into the real world at all. But for my last two FIFA editions, right, I've bought Tonali for Newcastle purely because he's high potential and dirt cheap, right? So I already had this emotional attachment to him before he'd even signed for our club. And then never in my life did I think we'd actually sign him. And then we did out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy, right? And so like, it was like one of those weird full circle moments. And then I see him just standing there and like, you can even see somebody's handing their shirt over him. I don't think a lot of people realized that he was there because he was so brand new, but like, he was just kind of stood there and he doesn't speak a lot of English. And I was like, oh my God, it's Tonali. I ran right over to him and I was like, thank you so much for coming to our club. I shook his hand. He just like kind of nodded at me and took a photo, but he was really, really nice. And I remember like I ran over to Eddie right afterwards and I was like, I bet Tonali's here. And I was like, yeah, he's like behind all of those people being very quiet. But that was an awesome moment. I was really, really pleased that I got to meet him for a bunch of different reasons. But yeah.
Cool. I'm with you on that. I had him in my football manager save about 3 or 4 years ago as well, so I'm with you on that one, Jed. But yeah, Pete, I'll come to you first. And we saw the tweet from Jordan. Was it yesterday or today? I can't remember now. But looks like Tonali has been. He's not going to play their next qualifier. And will there be a doubt then for the Brentford game? Anyone heard anything else since?
No, the news has kind of come out today that he's not going to play against Ukraine, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a concern. Like he loves playing for Italy, so for him to not miss for him to miss a game, would say that there's a slight concern. I'm hoping it's because he knows there's a couple of massive games coming up this weekend, and certainly next week with the Champions League, going back to his hometown club, and all the emotional side that will be with that. Hopefully we're doing what a lot of other big clubs have done over the years, is protect their big players and say, look, let them come back and don't risk them, let them come back to their club and rejuvenate. And what you see is that they turn up on Saturday and have a blinder in there. Hopefully that's all part of the Eddie Howe plan. But yeah, it is a little bit of concern because he's not one that tends to get injured very often. So when it comes out, it's a bit like it's a bit of a concern. And look, with the likes of Willock injured and one or two others picking up knocks, we don't know the situation of Botman either. I don't know. I just hope, because I just think he could be a match winner for me on Saturday against Brentford, who are a good side, and you want your best players playing in the team. We're gonna come back to some of those pictures again, but I'm gonna stick with Brentford, and I'm gonna go to you, Chris, next. And we know someone who won't be playing for Brentford on Saturday, but there's talk of we could be potentially in the mix for him if come January or into 2024. Is he someone you'd like to see rock up in Newcastle?
Yeah, no, I would. I've having Toney, and I think he's one that slipped through the net. I know some people say we should never have sold him, but I do believe that him leaving Newcastle, getting his regular football has probably helped him. And he's gone from a Premier League club, down the leagues, and then he's probably thought, you know what, I need to get back up, and he's probably worked really hard for it. I think he came out in an interview, didn't he, and said, I wouldn't be where I was now if I didn't leave Newcastle, in terms of not because of the club, but just in terms of, he needed to kind of get back to reality and realise that, he really wants to play football at the highest level, and he needs to work really hard and get his head screws on, because at the time, I think we probably were correct to let him go. And really, if you think about it, if we kept him, would he be where he is now? Probably not. So it's probably worked out well for him. In terms of us signing him, I would be very interested. I rate him. I think he's a really good player. My only hesitancy, I suppose, is that one, I think he would cost a hell of a lot of money, and he could potentially be coming in as a number 2 striker. The clubs that were mentioned in that article, Daz, Tottenham and Man United, they're both really, you could argue, looking for a traditional number 9 to play in that role. So if either Man United or Tottenham were to come in for him, for me, I think even if we did come in, he probably would join one of those two over us for the regular game time, because I think he'd probably be looking at it and thinking, well, if Callum Wilson's still here and Alexander Isak's here, he's got a fair bit of competition. So I don't think it'll happen, if I'm honest. But would I take him? Absolutely. Yeah, I rate him. I think he's a really good player.
Anyone not take him?
So I'll chime in here. first off, just real quick, like I totally agree with everything Pete said about Tonali. I'm really hoping that is just a precautionary thing. But in terms of Toney, right? When I look at Toney, is there's one of two Toneys coming back to the Prem after his ban, right? And it's the bitter Toney that's angry that he missed out on a World Cup, that doesn't think he needs to change and grow as a player, and doesn't really care about this big slap on the wrist that he's been given, which we've seen him to be careless and not be classy towards the clubs that he's at times, right? We know that maybe we could have that. Or there's the redemption Toney, where he comes back and he's like, no, I want to play in the next European competition. I want to be the respected striker that I know I can be. And this slap on the wrist has shown me that I really need to step up my professionalism and think about the type of player I want to be going into this next stage of my career after having missed essentially a whole season, right? I want that Toney. I want that Toney to come back in the black and white and bang him in and compete and everything like that. But I just don't know which Toney we're going to get. And kind of what Chris was saying, I also don't know how much he's going to cost. And, we get inflated prices thrown at us all the time. I don't necessarily think that like that bitter Toney that we get isn't going to fit Eddie Howe's system. The one that wants to learn, grow, adapt, be that player that he needs to be in order to take it to the next level. That's a Toney that maybe could work under Eddie Howe's system and stuff like that. I do still think we need another striker. I agree with Chris. I don't necessarily think that he's going to want to come in and compete that way. And for the price tag and the 50-50 chance of which Toney we're going to get, I personally wouldn't take him. I'd spend that money elsewhere.
And then the next question I think would be, how does he fit in? I mean, how, does he partner up with Callum better than Isak? Because I see him a little similarities to Callum. Would they get on well enough to be able to partner up? And that's always a big concern. I definitely think we need an out-and-out striker. I don't think he would be the right fit for the system that Eddie plays.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna. I have a question for Richie, but I'm gonna play into it and I know Richie, you're having a nightmare with your broadband, so I give it a chance to settle. But sticking with strikers, tell us about this man, Jade, and your meeting with him. I'm sure everyone has seen the clip as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the best days of my life for a lot of different reasons. I mean, yeah, you guys have all seen the clips. You know the story about my mom and everything like that. But I had no idea that Alan Shearer was even going to be there until the day before the Premier League Fan Fest. NBC had asked me, and Peacock had asked me if I wanted to do an interview. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do an interview. Any chance to talk about Newcastle, I'll take. And but they didn't tell me anything else. And then we got the email saying like, oh, Alan Shearer's the last minute addition to the group. And I immediately called the people at NBC and I was like, what do I need to do to meet him? Like, I was like, he has to sign my shirt or what? Like, I have to get a picture with him, something. Like, I have to meet him. Especially he's in LA. Like, no one ever comes over to the West Coast. You guys have finally done this fan fest and you're bringing like the greatest Newcastle player of all time with you. Like, I have to meet him. And they're like, don't worry, we'll make sure that you meet him. And then I get there and I was like asking everybody, I was like, can I? And then I saw him at one point and I was like, can I just go over there and just say hi real quick? And they're like, we need you to be right here for this interview. And then Rebecca Lowe and Alan Shearer come out. And I didn't know until 20 seconds before I went on live TV that they were both going to be the ones interviewing me. No one told me anything. They wanted it to be a complete surprise. So this whole time I'm begging NBC to meet Alan Shearer. They're all in the back room laughing because they're like, this guy has no idea what he's about to go through. And then like, I remember I looked over at NBC and I was like, I think I'm going to cry if you guys put me out here with them. And they're like, good, it's good for ratings. Go ahead, cry all you want. And I was like, what? And,
why are you not crying tonight, Shade? What? Where's the tears?
I'm in too good of a mood, man. But yeah, it was unreal. He was just dead polite, and you know everything that Premier League USA and the club did for me, which was nothing I ever expected. I really just leaned on the fan base at a time when we couldn't get out much. I was dealing with something very heavy that I didn't really know how to deal with. I put a couple tweets out, and you know the greatest fan base in the world helped lift me up and helped support me and kept me on a good path while I went through all of that. And then, and then for Newcastle United, like a club whose crest I carry so proudly, and did for so long in Southern California by myself before I moved here with the San Diego Mags, for them to fly over and kind of acknowledge that and do something special for me was just, I didn't think it was possible for me to become more of a Newcastle fan. And then for some reason I did, right? Like, it was just a magical moment. And then, Alan was just a total gent. And, like they were even trying to pull him away because they're like, you need to get to your next interview. And he was like, well, there's a bunch of Newcastle fans here still that want to meet me. And like, he like made them wait and like signed everybody's shirt, took a picture with whoever they wanted. And was just a fan. I mean, he's somebody that doesn't need to be an ambassador for our club because everything that he's done is already ambassador enough. So for him to be, just a cut above the rest in terms of his, in terms of being an ambassador was just unreal and such a pleasant experience. And I know that pretty much every mag that was at that fan fest with me would agree.
Class. And Eddie, you met
Yes.
the legend yourself. You met the main man. Here he is.
Ah,
Mad Dog.
I will tell you, Mad Dog has got to be one of the funniest, just absolute class, so funny. So I saw him and I told Shade and I told the other lads that were with me, I said, I'm going to try to get him to do what he does to Eddie Howe all the time, which is kind of pip him for a photo. You see all these photos of him kind of stepping in front of Eddie as Eddie's about to wave at the camera or having an interview. There's Mad Dog's mug in the frame. And I walked up to him and said, hey, I introduced myself, told I was a big fan. I asked him if he could do something for me. He said, what's that? I said, can you jump in front of my photo as soon as I go to wave at the camera? And he did it for me and it came out perfectly. Totally just perfect. And that picture is going to live with me forever because I thought it was so amazing that he took the time to do it. It was hilarious. Had everybody rolling. And when I tell you that story to all my friends, they just think it's the funniest thing ever because they're like, yeah, he does do that. He does that all the time.
Not here. He didn't do it here.
yeah, no. He was so nice. And yeah, he was hilarious. And when Eddie asked him, he didn't even hesitate. He's like, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I took that photo of Eddie. And then yeah, he was the first. I saw Longstaff when we were at the open training, and then I saw Mad Dog just hanging out, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Mad Dog!" And I ran over to him, and then he was with Graham Jones, and that was awesome too to meet Graham Jones. And Graham Jones is the biggest fan of the San Diego Mags logo. He was like, "Tell me you have more of these stickers," and I was like, "Yeah," I handed him some stickers and stuff like that. And he's like, "I love this," and I was like, "Get it," like it was, that was cool. But yeah, Mad Dog was hilarious.
Richie, I think it's time for your question.
Who was your favorite person to meet? Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, who was your favorite person to meet? Would you say? And I know, obviously, you've probably got the Alan Shearer thing going on, but who out of everybody, who was the one that you enjoyed talking to the most?
You go first, Eddie.
Oh boy, yeah, I'll tell you, that's easy. When we showed up to the open training event and we turned that corner to go to the ground, and they're standing there by herself, well, with Darren Eales was War Mandy. I walked right up to her and we had probably a 5-minute conversation, and she was brilliant, answered all my questions, was absolute sweetheart. We were talking about the club, we were talking about ambition for the club and how amazing that journey has been for her, because obviously she's been in that fight for such a long time to get the club. And then I at the end of that, I said, I want to thank you for saving this club. And she said, no, this is our club. This is your club. And on that, she gave me a hug and I walked away, and that was amazing. Players, I've met a lot of players, but she was absolutely brilliant.
Class.
Yeah, that's really tough. I mean, because I have different ones for different reasons. Very similarly to Eddie, meeting Amanda and her acknowledging, like, you know, the club's done great under this new regime at acknowledging us international fans, and like compared to what it was like under the Ashley era, like it's night and day, and we are buzzing about all of that. But for us to be here, you know, we get up early every day or every match day, and we try our hardest to support our club the best way that we can, being so far removed from it and everything. And for me, being, the fanboy that I am, and everybody knows that, like, just drooling over everything that all my, my best friends that still live in Newcastle, everything that they're getting to experience over there on a weekly basis, for the woman who saved our club to be like, no, thank you for everything that you've done for our club, was just, like, for her to acknowledge all of us that way. And like, they had, like, same with Alan, like, her security was trying to pull her away from the fans. And she's like, no, these people here want a picture. Like, she was telling them, like, hold on a second. And because even when I finally got to get to her, because I was buzzing, jumping around every player I could, when I got to her,
saw that.
yeah, and they were pulling her away. And I was just like, I was like, Amanda. And she's like, she went to her security guard and she came and turned around. And there was like another family with me. And I was like, this little one wants a photo with you. And so she came, I took that photo, and I was like, can I get one too real quick? She's like, of course. And then, her security guard's all stressing out behind her and stuff like that. And, she just didn't care. She's like, I have time for everybody here. And, Murdad was the same way. That was amazing. I'm not going to lie. Meeting Trippier was just fantastic. I thought, like, it was going to be a fly-by high thing. And he talked to me for a few minutes and stuff. I mean, it was mainly like, why do you have my old jersey? But it was still just nice to have a bit of banter with him a little bit. And those were great. Like I said, Alan was fantastic. But like, Amiobi just did so well at all the fan events overall. Like, I think that, like, from a general perspective of like who was great with everybody, it was like Amiobi was getting everybody pumped at everything he could. Like, you can just see that guy just loves to be a part of the club still, no matter what capacity, and he bleeds it like regular supporters do, right? And that was really cool too. Callum is the most charming person ever, and I'm not gonna lie, like, meeting Fabian Shearer was really, really funny, because I went up to him and I was like, I need you to make me look really ugly in this photo by just being you. And he started he just started laughing. I was like, you're the sexiest man in the Prem, like, what can you say? And he was just so nice. Everybody was super nice, and just, I think a lot of them, like, who looked hilarious, like Lewis Miley was like a deer in the headlights at this open training. I don't think he like ever thought he'd meet that many Americans in his life, and he's just like come off this great run of playing time that he's had, right? And he's becoming this little superstar. And he stood there with a bunch of other youngins that, I'm sorry, I didn't know, right? But I went up to him and I'm like, hey, can I get a photo? And he's like it was almost like he didn't know if he should say yes. And I just thought that was the most endearing thing, like seeing somebody that, like, if they stick to it, they're projected to go far, right? And seeing them before they even realize that there's somebody whose name we all know in the States, right? It was just a very cool experience too.
Yeah. It's been very amazing for him as well to know that he's recognized now in the States as well.
Yeah.
Richie, here's your question. I want to talk about one of the topics here, and it's about Stacked. So some pictures were released, and you being the most local to St. James's Park on the panel, what's your thoughts on it? So I put up a few pictures, and tell us your thoughts on that.
Do you know what? It's I've got off the images that were released yesterday. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. I think I put in our WhatsApp chat. It's a bit like obviously a Newcastle United version of the Box Park at Wembley. It's it's a fantastic atmospheric arena that it'll be, and it'll be it's not going to be particularly huge in size as such, but it's going to be pretty intimate. And then, but if anyone's been to the Box Park at Wembley and obviously took a game in and stuff like that, I was lucky enough to see the Champions League final in there a few years ago. And yes, okay, it wasn't Newcastle there, but the atmosphere of the other fans was fantastic, and it's that in a small little arena like that, and you're gonna have the opportunity to have the games on there as well, and it's just it's going to be a fantastic thing just for local Newcastle fans who can't get into the ground on a match day, or obviously who could be in the town the same day. A fantastic meeting place for anyone from any of the worldwide supporter clubs, obviously like the lads that are on tonight, and obviously the Irish Mags who were on last week, and anybody else from around the world. It's another potential fantastic meeting place where they can come in and soak up the Geordie atmosphere, before the game, potentially during the game if they haven't been lucky enough to get a ticket, or after the game as well. And the fact that that Seller are on board with it as well. For all we know, there could be a lot of events on with players. Obviously, we know that Shearer Bar has a player on before the home game. they might do something similar with down the Seller Stack as well. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously it's a partnership between Stack, Newcastle United, and the Seller. So there's nothing to stop that any players coming on there as well, and or Darren Eales or someone like that coming down and having a bit crack with the supporters. But I think it's just going to be fantastic, and obviously it's a Stack's a local company as well. So it's just pretty fitting. Full stop. I don't. The lads might have been over. Obviously, I know when you came up in April, obviously you stayed on the quay side, and across the road there's like a little Stack type bar underneath the Tyne Bridge there by the River Company. That's fantastic. It's just going to be on a bigger scale of that sort of thing, but right outside St James's Park. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Remember, we're in as part of our prediction show before the season kicked off. I think we said we all guessed when it would be open. Of course, it hasn't been granted the planning permission yet for the council. But so I think we're thinking that it might be open for Christmas. Do we still think that, or is it pushed into once it's open for us in March? We don't mind so much. But anyone a guess of when it might be open now?
I would say anywhere between February and April.
March, like it, Pete. Good answer. Right, Chris. I have a few more topics, but I think we should get to some questions, or we might run out of time. So let's go for a few questions in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so oh, this is a good one. So Geordie Tune for Life says, question for Carl and Eddie: if you could sign any player from across the world who would fit our system and the no dickhead policy, obviously, who would it be and why?
I'm glad you clarified the no duckhead policy, because I totally read it. I don't know that one. Eddie, I'll let you start this one off.
Oh man, putting me on the spot, because that is, I wouldn't be afraid of dipping my toe in the water and getting Mr. Neymar. I think that'd be kind of cool to see. I think it'd be amazing to see him in black and white. Don't know how it'll shake out, but I think it'd be amazing to see him.
Did you miss the part about the no dickhead policy?
I was going to say.
I have him down as the sweetest guy in the world.
He looked great in that T-shirt, in that shirt.
I'm just saying.
There you go.
We definitely sell shirts, but it'd be interesting. I can tell you my biggest regret that we didn't get is Diaby. And it really pissed me off seeing him play. It pisses me off seeing him play so well so quickly. And that's no hate on Miggy at all. I just think that Diaby would have made a very, very interesting addition to our side. If I could pick one player, it would probably be him. In England, I know that a lot of our people in our group wanted Pulisic to come. I personally am glad that he didn't. I think that he would have done wonders for our American fan base. So from a business perspective, I understand it would have been smart. And he is a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. But I just don't personally think that he's the type of player that's going to add any more to our team. And when I say that, it's more just I feel like he could probably be a dickhead. And I don't think that there was reasons why I liked Pulisic coming, but I also didn't want him to come at the same time. I thought that we could probably do better. And I still think we can do better. And but Diaby's definitely one that upsets me. Outside of that, I'm a little. I wanted us to get another center back. I didn't know what that would look like. I know me and the guys were joking about Sergio Ramos being a free agent. I thought that would have brought some veteran experience, but I don't know. Depending who you are, you think he's a dickhead or not. I personally love Sergio Ramos.
I think he's a dickhead.
That veteran leadership that maybe we wanted while we were playing in the Champions League, and he was free. His wages would have been insane, but he was holding out for a European club. I love that he's gone back to his boyhood club, but he could have done that in 2 years, after, dare I say, winning a Champions League title or a Europa League title with us. But So I liked that idea. I'm really happy with the signings we made. Injuries aside, I think that we are a completely stronger team. And I think that we made the right kind of decisions. It would have just been nice to maybe see 2 more of those right decisions made. Yeah. It's tough though, because everyone, I'm glad we didn't get ripped off like some of these clubs. Like, I'm glad no one even mentioned Caicedo, and I'm glad. And then we ended up with nothing compared to him, and I'm sure, and I know that there are, we already know Klopp's kicking himself for not going after Tonali, and because he mentioned it, and I know other clubs are too, especially for the price tag that we got him for.
A link in there actually. It's about Bruno. There was talk that PSG and Bruno failed with attempts to try and go for Bruno. I know I saw somewhere else, even Sean Casey, that Chelsea may have actually put in a bid as well for Bruno, but delighted he's gone. No, I don't think he would have gone anyway. And it's only a matter of time when that contract gets sorted now at this stage.
Yeah, and then everyone on Twitter can start freaking out,
Yeah.
Coming, I love that news broke after the window about Liverpool, and I hope it's true, right? Because everybody in our boardroom was laughing their asses off when these bids for Bruno came in. And I also just love the fact that, 3 years ago, we would have shipped him off for 40 mil in January if somebody came knocking, right? and then
on deadline day.
Yeah, deadline day transfer. Bruno Guimaraes, 40 mil, PSG. I'm like, oh, cool. It's ridiculous.
So true.
I don't think we'll ever see him at PSG or Liverpool.
No.
I think we'll see him at Real Madrid, after he wins some stuff with us, maybe. That seems like the trajectory for him, but PSG are, I don't know how PSG are going to recover from the implosion that's currently occurring. And, Bruno, whether he's good at playing the PR and how much he loves us or not, I think it's genuine. I really do. He also knows, like, career choice wise, moving to Liverpool wouldn't have made any sense. I mean, it's a downgrade this season, but we don't know what this new Liverpool is going to look like. It could have been a lateral move. Just because they've done some rebuilding doesn't necessarily mean, and they've started off the season well, but that's, I'm not worried about the season right now, really, for anybody. I don't think that, I think the decision is still yet to be made on what Liverpool we're going to get this season. They could easily not make top 4 again. It's within grasp of so many clubs now.
Yeah, agreed. Guys, who's on? Is it Pete? Are you on the questions?
No, Chris, carry on, mate. Go for it.
Rich, I might be putting you on the spot here, mate, but did you have a question?
Yeah, it's going to be sort of a 2-part, because it's just obviously following on from what they mentioned about Bruno, and I'm a huge NFL fan, so I've got a lot of sympathy for your early start, because my team's on the West Coast too, so I have a lot of Thursday night footballs, like Sunday night football, Monday night football, so I'm like 1:30 in the morning for coming on, so, and I get up to watch them all the time as well. So hats off to all of you guys on the West Coast, because it's such a, unsociable hours, but the love that you have for the club, I admire that even more, because obviously I go through something still, probably not to the same degree as what you do, get to the pub at unsociable hours and mixing, but because the NFL, from where I am, they don't have individual groups like we've got, like a UK group. We get together very, very often. When we can and stuff, and it really, really, the commitment you guys actually have, it's if I had a cap on, I'd doff my cap to you, sort of thing, and it's fantastic. But it's also just following on that on 2 parts. Obviously, you mentioned about Bruno there, and everyone's going about the contract. He hasn't been playing great and stuff. I think what people forget is in the NFL, players have holdouts if they don't sign contracts, and you've got to remember that our professional footballers, for not just for Newcastle, they still play week in, week out, even when their contracts aren't sorted. But obviously, NFL fans don't seem it's looked at differently in America. It's people are saying, well, yeah, they're looking after themselves and stuff like that, because obviously one injury in the career is over, and and it's looked at differently. But Newcastle and other fans, when the professionals do it over here, it's a little bit different. They played regardless whether they signed the new contract or not. I know sometimes people, when they sign the new contract, turn around and say, "Oh well, it's funny now they've got a new contract and not played as well as they do." But I don't think Bruno will ever be like that. But the second part of it was what I wanted to really know about you guys is obviously living on the west coast of America. My NFL team's the Seahawks, and the reason why I chose them is because of the 12s. And obviously, you could probably relate that because obviously you have been to Newcastle. You know what our fan base is like. It was literally because of the two fan bases. That was what drew me to support the Seahawks when I started supporting about 15 odd years ago. What was it that grabbed your attention about Newcastle from obviously being on the west coast of America and Newcastle going through some awful times potentially when you started from? I don't know when you came on board and stuff like that, when you could have happily supported your Man Cities, your Chelseas, your Arsenals, your Man United, Liverpools. What was it about Newcastle that grabbed you behind the balls and went, "Come on, you're going to drag you along for the ride," sort of thing?
You go first, Eddie.
I'll tell you, I've been a Newcastle supporter since 1992, just out of high school. I'm a little older, but I'll tell you, I met a lad in school, and he was wearing a supporter's jersey, and he was an exchange student from the Northeast, of course. And I just asked him what that was, and he said it was Newcastle United. And I started kind of just following them through him a little bit. And then within a couple of years, they started showing match days on the telly here, and it was Newcastle or nothing. And I've been through some really good days with the squad, as we all have. And I'll tell you, nothing drives me to tears of joy or tears of pain the way this club does. And it's been a long ride. And I'll tell you, I couldn't love something more than I love Newcastle United. Absolutely. Just love it.
And he's got a big crest blasted across his thigh to prove it.
Absolutely.
And he wears the really, really sexy short shorts to show it off.
Love it.
And that tattoo is probably
That he is.
You gotta see
There it is.
there it is.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Brilliant.
Shay. Love it.
Yeah, and then for me, I mean, I feel like I do talk about it quite a bit, but I was going to uni in Newcastle. I went there because it was a good school, and they were going to let me play rugby, and I love playing rugby. And a bunch of my, I played with a bunch of English people, and they're like, "You'll love Newcastle, mate. It's a great city." And I was like, "All right." So I got accepted to a few schools. I chose Newcastle, and it was at a time in my life when I was really, I feel like for the majority of my life, I was a bit of a loner in a weird way, growing up the area that I grew up in, and moving around a lot and stuff like that. And when I went to Newcastle, I was really, really at a time in my life like yearning for community, but didn't know it. And my mate that I played rugby with took me to a match, and it was just electric. I had not seen anything like it. Newcastle versus Norwich. Demba Ba scored the only goal. Chris Hughton's return. So it was 2012. And when that goal went in, and I was already mesmerized by just all the black and whites going to the center of the city. And there's nothing like that in California, right? In Los Angeles, especially where I grew up, where we have the most fickle fans in the world. No one's driving 20 minutes across the city to watch the Lakers play unless somebody gave them a free $500 ticket, right? And to just see all these people walking in, I was like, this is cool. And then when that goal went off and I just saw it was just intoxicating. And I was like, okay, I want to start supporting Newcastle. I love this. This is awesome. I want to keep going. And then I started going, and I made some friends, and those guys are my best friends now, still to this day. I stay with them every time I go back to Newcastle. My best friend Joe, my best friend Rainer, my best friend Jax. One of them's from Whitley Bay. The other one's unfortunately, he's from Washington, but he lives in Hebron now. But he's black and white through and through. And they really just took me in, and I felt like the more I embraced the community and respected it, the more the community welcomed me. And it was really, we weren't, Party wasn't playing the worst football we had since I joined. In my first season, we were in Europa League. I got to go to Europa League matches, and it was surreal to see how it is now, because I would just go, I was a student. I didn't have any money. I'd go to the pub, And then lads would be like, "Oh, you support Newcastle?" I was like, "Yeah, I love Newcastle." And they're like, "Oh, you got a ticket?" I'm like, "No, I didn't get a ticket to this one." They're like, "Buy me a pint." I'm like, oh, "Okay, I go buy him a pint. I'd have a ticket." And it was just like, and then I was at a Europa League match, and I was just like, "This is amazing!" Like, they just want me to enjoy the football with them, and and then it just progressively got worse after that Europa League season. But like, Newcastle chose me. I didn't choose Newcastle, and and I'll rep that crest until I die, and speak as much good stuff as I can about that city and the people that live in it, because there is no better city I've lived in, and I've lived in quite a few, and there's no better people than Geordie's. And it was that community aspect on top of the passion that you do not get in Los Angeles. And I'm a very passionate person, but we just do not have that fan culture that really, really drew me in. And then I couldn't leave if I wanted to. I couldn't shake it if I wanted to. Like, not that I would, but I'm just saying I couldn't, and that's where I'm at.
Guys, I know we're kind of running out of time, but if you're okay to hang on for a few more minutes, maybe we go for a few more questions in the chat.
Yeah, Eddie, you got another 15?
I do.
All right, let's do it.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a few. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of love in the chat, guys. I'm not going to lie, a lot of love. John Norton says, I can remember having breakfast watching Newcastle 7 Spurs 1 in the Shakespeare, San Diego, with other Newcastle fans whilst I was on holiday. Great time and great game to watch. We've also got now, boys. You will hopefully know what "silence is lovely" is saying here. I don't, but hopefully this resonates. So I've been told to ask SoCal if he thinks Peacock need to give their head a wobble for waiting 24 hours after the match before airing the Premier League matches.
24 hours after the match before airing Premier League matches. I'm not sure if I've got that one down. Like the replays? Is that what they mean? Because
I think he's saying they don't show the match till 24 hours after.
Oh, like the replays. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like we start so early, and then especially if it's a good match or if it's a really bad one, we're probably on it for a while after that. And I'm probably not getting to the replay until the next day anyways. So it doesn't personally bother me, but I can understand why it would bother other fans. And I mean, I think Peacock need to do a little bit better in airing the matches. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know how lucky we are in the States. We get everything. If you have Peacock and NBC, we can watch every match and it's no harm, no foul. And I know that's not the case in the UK, but their streams fall apart a lot. Like we have a lot of issues with Peacock sometimes at the bars that we're at and everything like that. I'm sure they could speed it up and release the match sooner. I'm wondering if maybe they have some type of agreement because Peacock's a secondary source to NBC. I'm wondering if maybe they hold all the matches to not take things away from their partners that are broadcasting things.
Sounds like a contract thing, all right there.
Yeah, that's
sort it out, Peacock.
Yeah.
But Peacock's great to us, so we love them. We love My Premier League Mornings, Premier League USA. Absolutely. We love you all. Keep showing our photos.
Keep putting this one on the TV.
Yeah.
Paul Slaughter says, say hi to a Cork legend living in San Diego. That's the Notorious Lynch.
Notorious Lynch, who does he support?
Well, I know Paulie supports Newcastle anyway. He's part of the Irish Mags, so I'm sure the Notorious Lynch is a Newcastle fan as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have to reach out to him.
He might not be somebody that I've recruited yet, because if I hear a Geordie accent, I see a Newcastle shirt, or I see somebody even in black and white, you bet you know for a fact I'm already running over to them, being like, "What's your number?" Like I've literally hand recruited half the group that we have. It's like just being at different events and being like, "You've got a Newcastle shirt on." Like this one guy, Rich, that we had, he had the smallest crest on his beanie. And I saw him at a brewery and I clocked it and I ran over to him, and, now he's one of our core members as well. It's just like, he's like, "Oh, I didn't know," and yeah. So, okay. If we see the Notorious Lynch, we'll definitely say hi.
The Mighty Wind says, are there any mags elsewhere in the rest of California? And do you have a hookup?
Yeah. LA's got a good supporters group. They're a little smaller, but they'll come down and watch match days with us. We're going to plan a match day here to probably go see them up in LA County here during the season as well.
There's also San Francisco.
We got the very famous Dan Devlin, who is a MAG supporter who's in Monterey Bay, California, which is a small coastal city, and he is probably one of the most. He may have a more voracious appetite for Newcastle than most that I know. I mean, he is amazing, and he was all over over the summer series. He had the big black and white beard. If you saw him,
you probably saw him in We Are Newcastle United very quickly in episode 4 when he goes into the camera. He's got a black and white beard. That's our buddy Dan who went on the tour with us. He's unfortunately a lonely mag in Monterey Bay because they don't have a big group, but there's someone to watch it with in Monterey Bay. There's someone to watch it with in Modesto. There's definitely a group in San Francisco. Los Angeles has a group. If you're ever anywhere in California or America, just tweet at us and we will make sure that we retweet and put you in touch with whatever supporters group is nearby, or even if it's just a couple of mags that haven't fully organized yet. My favorite thing is, like, to be honest, my favorite thing with all the Twitter stuff is when Newcastle fans in America or people visiting reach out to me and they're like, hey, do you know if there's anybody here? And then I put out a tweet and I'm like, Toon Army, help me out. And then you see him at the match watching it with I'm like, get it.
Absolutely.
That's definitely one of my favorite things. So yeah, if anywhere in America, reach out to us. We definitely know, between the two of us and the network that we've created, we definitely know somebody in the area for you or can find someone for you.
Well, on that note, we've created a link up. A good friend of the channel, Carl Seggy, he says, so Carl, I'll get in touch with you. Toon Army Atlanta would love to be part of the 5K, 10K.
Hell yeah, that was great.
Get in.
Yeah, my dream is to get as many. I mean, we opened it up to all football groups because we want to just raise money, and Sir Bobby touched so many different football fans. Mm-hmm. I love that it goes to Sir Bobby's foundation because then that funds, I think it's 5 different charities in the Newcastle area. And my dream for it is, I was only going to do it 1 year. And it was mainly because Sir Bobby Robson Foundation reached out to me. They know I love running. And they were like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Help us promote it. And I was like, let's raise some money. And then the second year we did it even bigger. We invited all the other groups. But really what I would love is like every Toon Army supporters group getting out there and just, even if you're just walking it, just move your body for a little bit, throw some money in the tin. Let's raise some money for a great cause, in the city that we all love for different reasons. And, then we usually plan it on a match day, watch the match and have a couple pints, and keep it lit. But yeah, Toon Army Atlanta, I love you guys. It was great hanging out with you guys in Atlanta. Eddie and I had far too much fun out there. Definitely let you know about the run. It's in April, so we won't start promoting it until about January.
Yeah. Super huge shout out to Atlanta. They were absolutely amazing. That was such a great time. Absolutely amazing. Love to see them come down to San Diego.
Yeah.
We've got 2 more questions, boys, so I'm going to hit you with these 2 questions. Lisa Mole asked the first one, and Lisa says, question for you both. What's the most popular Premier League team supported in Cali? Now, I've got a feeling you're going to say Man City, but I may be wrong.
You want to go first, Eddie?
It's got to be Manure. It's got to be Man U. You're going to have a lot of City supporters now in the last decade or so, but you'll see more Man U supporters throughout San Diego than anything else. But you're seeing a lot more in other clubs now, but it's definitely Man U.
Yeah, they unfortunately, I mean, I totally agree with Eddie. Liverpool is very massive as well, but like Man U have their own bar, and not only do they have their own bar, the owner loves how much business they bring to him on a match day that he makes all of the employees wear Man United shirts when they're serving. Like, it's a proper Man United bar.
Wow.
And no other supporters group gets that treatment in San Diego. Los Angeles, very similarly, they have Yield King's Head, which is a Man United bar as well. They'll host other groups, but everybody knows you're walking into Man United territory. It's Man United.
Yeah. Interesting. And then final question from Tom Dixon. He says, question for you both. What do you think? We haven't really discussed this. What do you think about how Newcastle are doing so far? Obviously, we've not had the Glazers to start. And do you think we'll get back to winning ways at the weekend? The big important question.
You want to go first, Eddie?
Yeah, absolutely similar to last season. I'm not too concerned. If anything, I'm concerned about some of the injuries we've taken We didn't have these kinds of injury concerns at the beginning of last season. But I think the squad depth is strong enough to get us over the line this weekend. And no, I think we're going to be just fine. I'm very excited about what the club's doing, and I'm sure we're going to do great.
Oh, I think we lost him for a second there.
Yeah, I dropped my headphone. No, they're gonna, no, I'm not concerned at all. I think they're going to be just fine. I think they're going to go far in the Champions League. I think they're going to go further than folks think, and I project a top 4 finish again.
Yeah, I'm not worried. It's early days. You know, we all know that we had the toughest fixtures to start. We also know that no matter what, we've always got a few extra things to be concerned about, even before the takeover, right? It's always been a bit harder for us. And I know other supporters groups would disagree, but we all know how hard we've had it. I think that we've seen a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to the performances that we've recently had. But like Eddie said, you know, it's like I'm trying new things. I'm trying to design a system that works for the new players that have been brought in. I think that Bruno and Tonali are still learning how to play with one another. I think that that's a factor where, you know, he got very comfortable with Longstaff and Joelinton and Willock, you know, and so that's another factor as well. But I'm not concerned about the results that we currently have. Would I have liked to beat Liverpool? Of course. I hate Liverpool. You know, but you know, it is what it is. And I'd rather get humbled match day 3 and have an embarrassing moment then than have it happen when we're playing PSG, AC Milan, or somebody, you know, that's going to be in the top 4 for sure. Right. And like I said, I don't know if Liverpool will be. And going forward, I mean, I will say this: we have to beat Brentford, even though they are a good side. Like, we have to beat them. That is out there for the taking. But I also, like I said, I'm not worried about the results that we've had so far. I always want to win, but I also think that we've got to be a little practical. And like Eddie said, my main concern right now is our injuries. I don't know. We just have the worst luck with them, I feel like. And I'm hoping that a lot of these ones that we're seeing, like I know Miggy had something going on too. I'm just hoping that these are just precautionary things like we were talking about earlier. But I think that, you know, and even in episode 4, we are at Newcastle United, right? Like, the ownership planned for us to not do as well this year. You know, like, they talk about that. They're like, you know, this is the stats.
Yeah.
Drop off. It's why they decided to invest.
Expecting it, yeah.
You know, but it makes sense. Like, think about it. Like, you know, you've got runs where it's Chelsea, PSG, Man United. Like, you know, even though Man United and PSG are imploding, there's still good sides that can hurt us, you know? And, you know, and you don't know what Chelsea you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get the invisible Pochettino Chelsea that has no identity, or if you're going to get a Chelsea that all of a sudden clicks, right? And so it's like, we have a lot of tough stuff coming up. Let's make our mistakes early. You know, did I like Liverpool? Like, Liverpool embarrassed us. Cool. Let's get embarrassed in the first 4 games, as opposed to when we're pushing for a top 4 finish, or when we're pushing to get out of the group stage, right? And go from there. I just think it's early days. And I think that, you know, I understand why people are worried, right? Like, we lived in worry for 12 years, you know, every day. It was bad decision after bad decision. Our ownership is going to get things wrong. Eddie is going to make mistakes. People are still going to have it out for us. We have the biggest target on our backs in the Prem right now. Things are going to happen. It's going to be okay, though. We're still doing great.
And that's the thing right there, what Shay just said. There's a big X on the back of Newcastle United, because everybody wants to be the club that takes us down. And Eddie's going to prepare well. Eddie knows what he's doing. I believe in Eddie and anything he does. So we're in good hands. We're going to be just fine, and we're going to excel. Absolutely excel.
In Eddie we trust. And on that note, and what's coming next, Pete, tell us what's happening on Thursday.
Yeah, Away Days is back. Preview. Finally, football's back. Proper football's back. And we're delighted to welcome back Basotti B. So Lewis is going to join us to talk all things Newcastle United and Brentford. So it should be a really good chat. Lewis is a fantastic guest. He always has been. And I'm looking forward to chewing the fat with him. And look, we're hoping for a win. So look, let's see if Double O Stato is going to be as positive as he has been in previous weeks. So yeah, let's wait and see. But yeah, it should be a good chat.
So tune in for that one. Yeah, sure, Eddie.
Hey, Daz, can I drop one more thing real quick? Warren Barton coaches here in the local community, and I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Warren Barton, who my club has beaten 2-0. We took it to Warren Barton, and my niece coaches for Warren, and I just wanted, if I can, just throw a quick shout out to my niece Elisa, who gets to work with that gem every day.
You can, of course, Eddie. And we had Warren on the show back. It was right after the takeover, I think. But it was, or maybe it was just before it. But no, Warren is a gent. I'd love to get him back on again as well. He was some great stories he shared with us. Again, good to get an update from him.
Yeah, if you get him on again, just remind him Sporting San Diego 2, Del Mar 0.
We'll clip that and send it to him. Shade and Eddie, thanks a million for coming on, joining us. You've been absolutely brilliant, and anyone that hasn't hit that like button now, and make sure if you haven't already subscribed to Loaded, or you are watching this back, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So I guess, there you go, Chris. Thanks for that.
Hey,
I'm gonna assume it's Chris. Chris, you always press that button.
It's always me. Always me.
But thanks for watching. Like and comment and subscribe.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Love it.
I guess,
love it. Thank you.
There's only one thing left to say then, guys, and that is stay classy, San Diego.
Got that right.
I've waited all my life to say that.
Love it.
Oh, and I suppose Pete, you can say that the real catchphrase.
How'd you like that?
Good night, everyone.
How you like